Hi, I'm Steve Friedman with Rockstar Excel. Today I'm going to explain to you how you can use mixed, relative, and absolute references to build large, powerful spreadsheets quickly. This is part 2 of my videos on references. If you haven't watched part 1 and you aren't already proficient with relative and absolute references, I highly recommend you watch that first. There's a link to it in the video description. As I mentioned in the first video, this was recorded straight from my Excel Made Easy class. If you're watching this video when it comes out, there's a session of the class starting this coming Saturday, and the early bird registration deadline is today. Check the video description or rockstarexcel.com for more information. If you're watching this in the future, check rockstarexcel.com to find out about upcoming classes.
You can also have a mixed reference where the row is absolute and the column is relative, or vice versa. The reason you would want to do that is it's very helpful in creating large spreadsheets quickly. For example, here I'm going to create a multiplication table, and instead of having to type a formula 100 times, I'm going to do it in a few seconds. So I do equals, and then I go up here and I hit F4. And then if you hit F4 again, it cycles through. So now this is telling me that the column is relative because there's no $ before the I, and the row is absolute because there's a $ before the 3. So then I do that times, and then I'm going to click here on H4, and then I hit the F4 button. And again, on a Mac, this would be Command T. So I hit F4 once, and that made it so the reference was entirely absolute. I hit F4 again, and then that makes it so the column is relative and the row is absolute. And I hit it a third time, and that makes it so the column is absolute and the row is relative. If I hit it a fourth time, it would go back to being relative. Let's do that. And now if I just, by the way, if you hold down Shift and hit the arrow keys, it will highlight a selection as you keep hitting the arrow key. So I do that, and I hit Control R to fill across, and then I press Shift and the down arrow key a few times, and then hit Control D to fill down, and now I've got this multiplication table. To give another example here, we can do equals that. If we have time, I'm going to go over some of the text formulas I'm using here today. Otherwise, it will be next week. Just giving you a quick preview of them with this ampersand, quote, space of, space, quote, and here. So again, we just, in a couple of seconds, I was able to fill out this chart using that mix. And then to give more of a real world example, here, this is a revenue forecast. And if we've got costs that we're forecasting costs that each of which are a percentage of revenue, what we can do is just say equals that, and then make the column relative and the row absolute times this percentage, and make the column absolute and the row relative, and just go down across. And now I've just built this financial forecast in a few seconds. So that's where combining absolute and relative references gets really powerful and lets you do a lot very quickly.
Sorry, could you go back to where you have the cards and suits?
Yeah.
Could you just kind of like walk through? I want to see what the formulas did through each one, because I get confused on the row and column, and I think seeing like the actual words will help me get what it's doing if I can see the words and the formula.
Sure. Is it helpful if I read it, or do you just want me to kind of slowly scroll through?
I think if you go to like the Jack of Clubs,
Okay.
and kind of walk through the formula of what, I mean, not the text part, but the relative part of what it's looking at.
Okay, so here, this C1, so it's looking at the Jack part, and here the A3 is looking at the clubs part. And then over here, because this part, the column was relative, when I filled it across, the C changed to a D, but on this part, the column was absolute, so this stayed in A. And then again here, when I filled it across, this changed to an E, and here this changed to an F. But then if we look at the next row, this 1 was absolute, so this stayed a 1. But then here, this row was relative, so it pointed to A4 instead of A3 and changed to diamonds. And again here, this part, the D1 is pointing to queen, because the C or D part here was relative, but the 1 was absolute, so it continued pointing to the first row.
Okay.
I mean, if you're still confused, please.
No, I think I got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was how to use mixed, absolute, and relative references to build powerful spreadsheets extremely quickly. As I said before, this was recorded straight from my Excel Made Easy class. The Excel Made Easy class is designed to help you master Excel in just 4 weekly 2-hour sessions without ever having to learn anything hard. What you just saw is the most complicated the class gets. You'll learn a lot more advanced stuff, but the way it's presented is even simpler to grasp than this. So if you understood this video, you'll have no trouble with the class. And even if you found this video challenging, the class is taught live online, so I'm there to answer any questions and hold your hand through any struggles. This is the class to take if you want to get a better job, improve your productivity, or save loads of time. I guarantee you'll learn enough to save 5 hours a week or your money back. In fact, I offer a full refund to anyone who's dissatisfied for any reason. So check out the Excel Made Easy class at rockstarexcel.com. And as always, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned so I can help make you an Excel rockstar.